Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Batwoman. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, this is our first case of Ryan and Alice, well, Team Batwoman and Alice having to work together. And it turns into the thing of, oh, it's not only if Alice, does anything, like, obviously she's being, given over to Montoya to look after and stuff like that, but it's like, oh, not only if she screws up her deal and will she go back, get locked up, but so will Batwoman, which I'm like, how? It's like, wait, so you're literally shackling me, almost or handcuffing you to this whole Alice situation, which is super messed up. It's like not fostering the best relationship, because it's not like she's on good terms. It's not like this puts Team Batwoman on good terms with Montoya, but for her, it's like, I don't need to be your friends. I don't care about being your friends. I just want to take down these Batman trophies before they cause a lot of damage. I've been around to know what the villains associated with said things can do. Alice has done her reign of terror. That's one supervillain amongst the horde that Batman's taken down in his time. And, these trophies are birthing new ones. In particular, this episode is the birth of Killer Croc 2.0. And we learn about... So like I said, I think it is going to be a combination of OGs while also some other non-OGs, some next generations. Because this Killer Croc, which was very horrifying, very horror element-esque, where it's just kind of the blood filling with the pool filling with blood, the pool filling with blood as that girl tries to run, and Croc being so strong at grabbing her that her nails dug into the cement and just blood tries to it's like, damn, that sucks. And even later on when they're checking out the crime scene, I guess it's still gonna maybe only been a couple hours, so the blood's still floating fresh as hell in the pool. But, I guess it would. I don't know why, it's not like it would dissipate or something, because you're talking about, at least 2 bodies worth of blood, so. But it turns out we find out about the OG Killer Croc. He's dead, not because Batman killed him. Actually, the GCPD did. Because he was a wrestler. Waylon, the OG Killer Croc, was a wrestler, and it was an infection that created the situation that he was in and made him into Killer Croc. But Bruce felt bad for him, realizing it was just the infection that made him the way he was. But GCPD handled things in their own way. They dropped a ton of thermite on him, and the only thing left of him was the tooth. It's wow. So, because it's also interesting to know, what's the status, because we don't know too much about where a lot of his villains are, Mr. Freeze, is he locked up in Arkham? We know Riddler exists in his continuity. We know that Joker's dead in his continuity. Hell, he's dead in Titans as well. Spoilers for this season of Titans, sorry. But yeah, we don't just know the status of all their villains. Once again, just little lines that you could just say casually, this world, or the girl who was with her boyfriend or whatever at the pool was kind of this world already has, what do you think, this world already has one Aquaman and he's ripped. I'm yeah, we can make those references because everything's on one Earth now. Yes. Because we know Atlantis exists because Cisco went there. We don't get to see it in its continuity, but still, knowing it's there is still dope in its own right. They're never probably going to ever touch on it, but I am curious, who is the Aquaman of this? I don't think it's Jason Momoa is the Aquaman of this universe. I think it's obviously it's because Grant Gustin's the Barry Allen of this Earth, so I'd assume it's someone. But I'm curious, I don't know if it'd be Alan Richardson's from Smallville. I don't think it'd be that. Probably just some new Aquaman, So it's probably, that's all it probably chalked up to be. But it's still kind of interesting to know who would be the Aquaman in this continuity. But regardless, like I said, but it's sad knowing that that's what happened, and now whoever found this tooth most likely got infected again. But obviously, Team Batwoman has to deal with, oh, cool, Alice, yeah, you and your snide comments, let's go. But then on top of that, it turns out Jada Jet, who is Ryan's mom, shows up because it turns out her and Wayne Enterprise, in particular her and Bruce, have some history, some heated words about. She talks about an employee that worked for her that kind of jumped ship, apparently Bruce took on him. I don't think I doubt it's Lucius. I was thinking in my head, I was could it be Lucius? I guess it's just, maybe it's not someone significant, or maybe it's someone significant from the comic books, but I was it probably isn't Lucius, because if it was Lucius, I feel Luke would have some experience with Jada to some extent, but that could be Nah, I doubt it. I was about to say it could be like way before he was born, but or maybe it could have just been when he was like a little kid. Who knows? I mean, to be fair, like Bruce has been like going for like 3-4 years now, so it's like there's no guarantee of like she's talking about something ancient past history. It might be like a little like more recently, like before his disappearance and stuff. Which I like. It's like, right, she's here to see the acting CEO, which would be Kate, but Kate kind of passed a lot of stuff on to Ryan just to make sure, like, to keep up appearances and stuff like that. So she has to play the role of a CEO while being in front of her mom. Now, kind of like, it's like, cool. Now you find out this, you literally just found out from Sophie that this person's your mom, so it's like you just have to be the powerful fighter that you are. It's like, yes, she had spent all this time, like, she took over the company after her husband died, and now she's made it into the enterprise that it is, so it's just kind of like, yes, she's a fighter, but so are you. And so, obviously, Ryan's able to keep her calm, like, her calm in front of Jada, because at first she was wondering if Jada knew about it, but it's like, no, Jada's completely ignorant to that, Ryan's her daughter, and it's just mainly because of the hack. It's like she built her enterprise, and she doesn't want to take the chance that someone from Wayne Tech Enterprise might be like trying to like snatch something that's very important, that's very lucrative to them. It's like this is kind of my baby, which, and I won't let anyone kind of steal from it type of situation. So obviously, Ryan's like, I have no idea what's going on here. I have no idea what you're talking about. But she's like, oh, yeah, drop the acting CEO because, like, that performance you just put on wasn't that good or convincing, which is, like, funny because there's actually a lot more going on here. But despite how quick-witted you are and just how on top of things you are, you still didn't, like, obviously it speaks volume. Granted, you haven't seen your daughter in decades, so of course you wouldn't recognize her. You haven't seen her since she was a little girl. Who knows if, I mean, we don't know if she's ever kept tabs on Ryan up to a certain extent. Obviously not enough to know what Ryan looks like now, but, so I'd assume she hasn't kept up with Ryan at all. But, you know, maybe the earlier years she did and just hasn't kept up since then, but whatever the case may be. That's one thing. It's like, right, I'll stay out of the way, I'll leave you alone, because Ryan has no intentions of like getting close to her mom. It's like, yeah, you want me to stay out of your business? No problem with that. I don't want you anywhere near me as well. She's like, I want you out of my life. So lo and behold, has to turn to Alice for help with this crime, which Alice immediately is like, oh, Mommy Dearest showed up. It's like, wait, you knew her name the entire time? It's like, yeah. But isn't that kind of crazy? Like, your mom abandoned you just to gallivant around the world, the globe, and make a whole bunch of money. It's like, oh, it's got to make you feel a certain way. But obviously, Ryan and her are focusing more so on the psychology of understanding the, you know, this Killer Croc 2.0. And Alice talks about her first victim and everything. It's like, yeah, she chose a old lady with an oxygen tank. And it's like, do you know why I did it? It's because you're a killer. She's like, no, well, yes. But it was because it was an easy prey. And so the fact is that this Killer Croc killed 2 people at once, meaning these aren't his first victims. So she was able to find like the full scale of his hunting grounds. Sadly, later on, a little girl goes missing. So it's up to Ryan and Alice to deal with this. Obviously, Alice, she even tried earlier Googling, like, or at least searching for a way to get the ankle bracelet off. I don't know why she thought that would work, but her and Ryan have to go into the sewer to chase after this little girl. What, you know, it's like, right, we got a little girl to save. So, wait, you, who has the impenetrable suit, wants me to go first. It's like, I'm not, like, my fate is tied to yours. I'm not letting you out of my sight. So, it's like, oh, like, shouldn't you be, rather than focusing on me, shouldn't you be focusing on saving the little girl? Which she's like, don't pretend like you care about that little girl. And Alice is like, I am that little girl. It's so interesting how she can do that in her mind. Like, her mind is so, like, scattered. There is definitely, like, a dissociative almost element going on where she can be defensive like that, like, how dare you, like, I was that little girl, no one came to save me. But then later on, when given an opportunity to actually help her, you abandon her because it's like, no, you're gonna thank me in the long run, because it's a lesson you got to learn the hard way. No one's here to save you, no one came to save me, everyone gave up on me. And the sad thing is, like, your sister never gave up on you, like, you know. But it's like, to her, it's like, you know, there's no getting past it. But so much of that anger that's still there, it's like she knows it, but it was Sophia and Enigma who put a lot of that in her head. Like, she's so consumed with that being a bad guy. Like, I don't know if she could ever fully break free of that. I mean, a lot of circumstances has just kind of caused her to double down on it. No, because, like, oh, it's like, no one's giving me a chance. Like, every time someone extends an olive branch, you, like, spit in their face and just kind of, like, cuts that olive branch down. So it's like, of course people are going to stop giving you a chance over and over again, especially for Ryan. It's like, especially when she was like, oh, talk about mom. It's like, well, my mom was awesome until you killed her. It's like, well, yes, I'm not talking about that mom. I'm talking about your birth mom. It's like, the fact is, like, why would she having a conversation like that with you? It's just, once again, Alice it's so interesting, like, how her mind works in that regard. So they end up going into the sewers, and they end up running into the new Killer Croc, Steven, his dad. Well, Killer Croc 2.0, his name is Steven, and his dad is down there, like, trying to bait him out. It's like, my son didn't do all this. Oh, why are you two working together? That's going to definitely be a conversation going forward more and more, I'm sure, of like, oh, Batwoman and Alice, aren't you supposed to be enemies? Isn't she a killer? Like, why are you... Yeah, it's a whole long story. We're working together. But, that dad is doing everything he can to save his son, which I think hearing that, obviously, it tugs at Alice, because for her, it's like, oh, my dad didn't do that. Granted, he has kind of tried to make up for it before getting locked up last season. It's like, it's an element of like, yeah, he's trying to be there for me, so that's something at the very least, you know. But it still doesn't take up for like the decades he wasn't there for her, like the Cartwright situation she had to grow up in. I mean, hell, her first victim was Cartwright's mother, if I remember, like the lady she was referenced with the oxygen tank. That was his mother, if I'm remembering correctly. But regardless, it's still, you could tell it was tugging at her a little bit. But and the father tried to lock his son up, like when the changes started happening, he started getting acquired taste, but it wasn't enough to keep his son shackled. And even to the point he starts electrocuting Ryan, because it's like, no, like, I can't let you hurt my son. I won't let you, like, lock him up again and stuff like that. I'm sorry. But at the end of the day, Ryan's like, I'm just trying to help your son. Like, I guess Alice didn't make anything better by being like, oh, like, you think he's going to want to be locked up again? It's like, probably shouldn't have said that. That probably wouldn't have gotten in his head. But it's like, right, my son's going to be poked and prodded and treated like a lab rat. Like, but it's like, we won't know. Like, because sadly, there was never an opportunity to save/help the previous Killer Croc. But this situation, like, maybe we can. But the father was just so desperate to save his son, is like, I'll protect my son. And your son proceeds to kill him, grab him and kill him. It's like, it's sad. And the moment Alice is like, oh, you're okay, I was like, I thought she was going to electrocute Ryan again, but no, electrocute her anklet and just bounces off. But once again, she runs into the little girl that's missing. But then at first she's like reluctant. She's like, but then she's like, all right, let's get out of here. But the moment she finds out the girl's leg is broken, it's like, it won't do much for you, but it's like, right, if I help you, you're just going to slow me down. It's going to make it easier for Batwoman to catch up with me, so I can't help you. And there's also a good chance if I take you with me, you're just going to slow me down, and that creature's going to come after me. So it's like, what? I'm doing you a big favor. It's like, this way, you're going to grow up, you're going to be stronger because of this. Because I guess maybe in her mind she thought, Ryan will save you, but you'll grow stronger because I won't, me leaving you here, it'll make you more self-reliant and stuff like that. It's so messed up. Because I was actually shocked by that, because I thought, like, the way she was hesitant, she's like, my leg is broken, she'd help pick her up or something, piggyback her. It's like, I thought Alice would do the right thing. She didn't. She kept running. I was like, wow. I guess it's like, once again, she's just leaning into the full villainy of it all. Like, yeah, I'll help, but it's all for the sake of self-preservation. And helping this little girl isn't self-preservation. If anything, is going to get me super dead. So I'm going to leave it at that. So I'll leave her here to deal with it. It's just like, man, that sucks. Luckily, Luke was able to catch up with her. Which it's like, oh, it's the sidekick. My name's Batwing. She's like, oh, cool name. And it's like, oh, you think you could take me on? Alice is, despite everything, is a trained fighter. But Luke's been doing his thing, too. Plus, he's got the suit to kind of help boost him up, too. I thought there would be issues the moment Alice, like, tried to, like, jab him with, like, that... and electrocute him. I thought that would have done something to the suit. But I guess, like, the suit has, like... maybe, like, protection against, like, oversurging or something. Like, or at least it's not powerful enough to oversurge the suit. And she's like, oh, you thought you could beat me? He's like, I don't need to beat you. We're on the same team, whether we like it or not. And he injects her. It's just like, well, something's supposed to happen. It's like, oh, those are a whole bunch of trackable nanites? So, yeah, you could try and run, but you better run really fast because you won't make it too far. I'm like, and she just kind of, like, submits herself. It's like, okay, I can't run anywhere. Like, you guys are going to be able to find me. So, more permanent solution. I swear that's happened. Nanite tracking. I feel like something else had that. Not recently, but there's something that it immediately makes me... it makes me think of something, but I can't think of what it makes me think of. But, luckily Ryan was able to go toe to toe with Killer Croc. I think she probably, like, he isn't a fully fledged Killer Croc. We have no idea. Well, it's probably only, it hasn't, well, because obviously he's still shedding and growing, so he probably hasn't full flexed out. I mean, granted, he's still strong, but enough for, like, the, that gadget of, like, the bat nets to, like, hold him in place. So it's like, he's probably not, like, at full capacity, like a full-blown Killer Croc 1.0 with Waylon. Like, he's probably, I wonder, is that a byproduct of, like, Waylon was a wrestler, so I wonder if that contributed to, like, his mass, like, increase and stuff like that. So we do find out later on he is in Arkham, and obviously Alice is locked up again, and it's like, yeah, it's like, oh, where's Alice? It's like, yeah, she's in the car waiting for you to take her back to Arkham. It's like, yeah, you're not about to throw this on us. It's like, yeah, your anklet's gone, but we found a permanent solution to kind of keep her in place. And it's just like, because Renee was coming down there to start, it was like ripping people a new one, but it's like, no, you get Alice, and she, you know, Alice's plan to run is not only thwarted this time, it's thwarted forever, unless she's able to find a way to get the nanites out of her body, but it's like 1,000 nanites, so it's like, regardless if she'll never be able to fully get them out, because they're like just flowing through her bloodstream right now. So she would probably have to try, like, maybe electrocute herself to, like, short circuit them in her bloodstream. Might be the way. That might be me talking from ignorance, but I think from a science fictional standpoint, that sound, which is weird to say when it comes to science fiction, but I think you would be able to, like, overload the nanites. Or it'd probably be a situation of she'd have to probably die first, and then inside of her bloodstream they die, and then, like, resuscitate herself, and they wouldn't be an issue. Something along those lines. I'm sure she'll try and find a way out of it, but currently she's stuck with it. Now it's like, yep, you thought, you know, once again, you try to use that little girl. It's like, oh, it was that little girl. And it's like, Mommy had an opportunity to show that you cared about the little girl. You ran, but I guess by leaving her behind, you were showing you were caring. So that's an interesting development on that front. Because obviously this father's love for his son, and obviously, you know, because Ryan tried to talk to him of, like, yeah, your dad wants to save you and everything. He's going through so much to save you. It's because he cares about you. I know you're still in there, but sadly he killed his own dad, so it's kind of all for naught. If he had just let Batwoman take him in, that maybe they could have found a cure for him. I wonder would Jada's company in any shape or form be potentially helping towards a cure, like, for him, or if there is one. I mean, they weren't able to find one last time, but maybe there's been some advancements technologically based since 2 decades ago that it opens up the window for there to be potentially be a cure. Now, the other side of things, we have Mary and Luke working on the Batwing suit and trying to figure out what's going on. And it's like, right, there's a failsafe that's kicking in, so it's kind of being overprotective. Obviously, the AI sounding like Lucius, which even Mary's like, oh, hi. It's like, she's like, obviously it's pretty dope, because, like, even though your dad's going, it's almost like you still have him by your side. And so Mary wants to check Luke out, because it's like, right, the suit's reading something, then maybe there is actually something wrong. And I love that we get that little moment. She's like, oh, you're pretty fit. And she's just staring, and she's like, right. And then, like, his heart rate starts going up more. She's like, oh, your heart rate, it's rising. What's going on? Are you okay, Luke? And they're face to face, and she's like, oh, you seem fine. And he said, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, you know, he's like, I'm just, you know, I'm ticklish, so that's all it is. It's like, cool. She's like, yeah, well, you're fine. And he's looking at her, she's like, I mean, you're totally feeling fine. You can put your shirt back on if you want to. And he's looking at her, she's like, I mean, you should. I'm like, I love it. I'm like, I'm glad this is finally, like, happening. I think this will be the season, because that's been a thing since, like, season 1. Like, there was going to be, like, a Mary and Luke thing. I feel like there were peaks of it in season 2, but yeah, it feels like this might be the season to, like, really, like, etch that up. But obviously Luke wants to deactivate the failsafe, because he's like, yeah, I'm perfectly fine, so it's on the suit's part. But Mary's like, the failsafe is meant to keep you safe, so, but for Luke it's like, yeah, but the failsafe is just, you know, overprotecting. So luckily everything worked out when he went to get Alice, but it turns out he can't talk to his dad anymore, because his dad's part of the failsafe system, so by deactivating it, he can't talk to his dad anymore. But Mary starts thinking, like, right, you were shot. The wounds healed because of the Desert Rose, but what if the psychological wounds haven't healed? Because it's like, you might have healed, but the wound may have healed, but maybe you, just because the wounds healed doesn't mean you've healed. That, you know, there's a lot associated with that. Because let's not forget, being shot, seeing his dad again, it made Luke not want to go back. He wanted to die. He didn't want to come back to this world. So there's definitely a lot there he has to process and deal with. I mean, getting shot's a traumatic thing in its own right, but let's not forget he didn't want to come back. He wanted to die. So I think there's an element of that he still has to process and deal with. So we'll see where things kind of go from there. But obviously, at the end of it all, we also have Montoya finding out that the poison ivy plant they have isn't the real poison ivy plant, because she's like, yeah, I figured it wasn't it, because she's like, I've seen it up close, but it's like, right, if this isn't it, who has it? Which I think plays a role in some certain casting we got this season. I guess that ties into that, of how that can be, not less said person just gets their hands on it because someone else had their hands on it. Because we have no idea who ended up finding all the... I mean... Steven only found that, like, crocodile tooth by accident, because, like, they got a fish and they cut it open and found a tooth. So, you know, no telling, like, who's... Because the last time we saw the poison ivy branch, it was growing rapidly, but it wasn't in that general area. So someone must have, like, grabbed, like, all of it in some shape. I don't know. We'll see. Find out, like, what happened on that front. But aside from all of that, we have Ryan still dealing with the fact is, you can see, like, her mom's company in the distance. It's like, that's the sucky thing of, like, now it's like she can't help look out there, now knowing who her mom is, she can't shake it from her mind. And so for Ryan, it's just the thing of, like, knowing, like, my mom paid $2 million to make it so no one could find her, not even me, that I didn't exist to her. And, you know, Sophie tries to play devil advocate, like, we don't know what she was going through at the time, what happened, what made her decide to make that choice, but there's only one person that can give you that answer, and obviously for Ryan, as I don't know if I want that answer, which obviously Sophie's like, I get it, she's like, I understand better than anyone just simply wanting a hug from your mom, and we know what her relationship is like with her mom, because, like, she came out to her mom, and her mom was super not receptive of it, so she knows what it's like to have a complicated relationship with her mom, and who knows if her mom will ever come around, because her mom might be stuck in her own ways about that, so... But, it's like, the only way you're ever going to get any answers, and whether or not... It's like, but what if they're answers I don't like? You go to, what if she turns me down? And it's like, you need those answers for your peace of mind, because you spent your entire life wondering that. And if she doesn't accept you, that's her loss. But you still have every right to know, like, you know, because this is a part of yourself that you end up denying, because she does make up a part of who you are. This is part of your history, part of who your truth of, like, who you are. Like, you know, she'll have answers potentially about your dad and everything too. So Ryan confronts Jada at the very end of, like, I'm not here for business. I'm here because it's personal. I'm your daughter. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where the next episode ends up taking us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.